time to speak with me.
Sure.
Obviously, I was very fortunate to cover the UK premiere of Scared to Death back in January for Horror on Sea Film Festival. And I wanted to ask you, first of all, obviously you wrote and directed the film. What was your inspiration for bringing this horror comedy to life?
You know what? In 2001, I bought a house, an old house in Hollywood that actually was originally owned by Charlie Chaplin, believe it or not. And
Wow.
the day before we took keys, because it was for sale by owner, the owner said, "Oh, by the way, this house is haunted."
Mhm.
And we were like, and USC had been here. There'd been all this paranormal stuff that had happened. He'd talked about this prostitute that lived in the house that was killed in the 30s. So, kind of freaked the family out. And so at nighttime, I would be walking around the house looking in the mirrors, thinking I was going to see something. And I never did, but the family did. So it was this believing is seeing rather than seeing
Mm.
is believing kind of came out of this. Why am I not seeing the good? So it kind of stemmed from there. And
Mm.
also from the fact that I'm a filmmaker and write about what you know. I wanted to write about, and the comedy of the scenario of a group of filmmakers and just the politics and the egos and all of that. Those two things
Mm.
combined was the concept.
Amazing. And you have such a wide variety of characters here. You say you wrote from experience.
Yeah.
What was your kind of your favorite character to create in this world?
Well, I mean, working with Lynn Shay, she brings so much to the table with regards to character. And,
Mm.
I mean, I enjoyed all the characters because they're all kind of art stereotypes in a way. The whole film is full of these kind of horror cliches. It's meant to be a little satirical and a little kind of, a bit of tongue in cheek. So, and that's the same for the company. Do you know what I mean? They're all extreme versions of people that I've worked with and people that I've met. But and Jasper was kind of me when I was younger, the kind of opportunistic, want to make films, want to be a filmmaker, working in
Yeah.
a hierarchy of people that, a lot of them not weren't necessarily nice or experienced. It was kind of having to fight my way through. But the most fun was working with Lynn and Bill because they're both such interesting people that allowed
Mm.
them to do a lot of improvisation and put their own brains into the role. So, but all the actors are great. BJ Minor is
Yeah.
wonderful in it, and Olivier, who we've kind of discovered for the film, who plays Jasper, is just, you know, it was a great experience working with those guys.
I definitely got that vibe of being almost an Olivier following your path, your career path. So speaking with him yesterday, I was very fortunate to get some time and
Yeah.
again, an inspiring filmmaker in his own right. And yeah,
Yeah.
he's a wonderful character in himself as a human. He's wonderful.
He's so
Um,
gentle. Yeah, he's so gentle. And I wanted that. I wanted the filmmaker to be like that. I wanted him to be the butt of the joke, to be the guy that's kind
mm,
of taking all the bruises, but at the same time, he's, he's an inspiration. You know what I mean? He's the one that I think the audience are kind of following through the story.
mm, definitely. And were there any characters you injected a bit of yourself into as opposed to your experience?
I think all of them in a way, right? Because it's impossible not to do that as a writer. You know what I mean? You kind of
Mm.
you're coming up with all the dialogue anyway and coming up with the characters. But there's a little bit of me in all of them, the kind of sarcastic praise,
Yeah,
sarcasm
I got that from Lynn all day.
right? Because
The role is
because sarcasm over here is not really a big thing in America. Do you know what I mean?
mm,
It's thick with that. And there's a lot of jokes that I think a lot of people might not get because they're kind of more looks than it's not really punchline jokes, it's more situational, you know.
yeah.
But
It's the reaction, it's the little glances, it's the offshoot
yeah, it's
look,
all
the
that
side
silly
eye.
stuff. Exactly. And it's a dancing on a line between comedy and horror is something that a lot of people have done for a long time. I mean, I go back to young Frankenstein. The two elements work well together, but it's still a dance because a lot of people just like their traditional horror. It's like
Mhm.
and this is a little different because it's kind of a bit of a piss take. It's a bit, it's a bit
Yeah,
satirical, but it's also a love letter to horror. I love horror. That's why
yeah.
all those cliches are in there because it's trying to it's make you only make fun of things you love, in
Mm.
the end.
Yeah, exactly. You could definitely have gone the other side with the Mel Brooks,
Oh my God, yeah.
the
Who's
Dracula Dead and Loving It side. That's the fine line, isn't it, between
yeah.
comedy
And
and comedy.
rather than making a gore fest, but the next film we're doing this summer is a horror, and we're actually making something really graphic. But because that wasn't the point with Scared to Death, it was kind of
Mm.
more to be silly, You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like even the head rolling around. It's meant to
Oh,
be
so good.
a little silly and it's scary, but silly at the same. Like Shaun of the Dead to me is one of the greatest horror movies because one minute you're freaking out, the next minute you're laughing. It's you get thrown around, and I think as an audience member, that's good. You're right. I mean, take your audience on a little bit of a ride.
Definitely, yeah. I love the idea that you just don't know what's coming. When it becomes
Yeah.
predictable, it becomes unenjoyable for me. So,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. And do you have a favorite moment from your time on set with the cast and crew?
Oh my God. I'm just trying to think. I mean, there were so many. I mean, I loved the whole walkthrough at the beginning of the film with Felix and Jasper and all the stuff that I did with the Grog. The Grog,
Mm,
Kurt Daimer, he's the investor behind the film. He's a touring rock musician. He's just like an everyman.
yeah,
And working with him and developing that character, like he is that character. He didn't put on a costume. Like that's him.
yeah,
That was one of the most interesting things for me because a lot of people are like, well, actors need to be actors, and it's not true. Like anyone can act if they feel confident and comfortable on set, and so I do a lot of casting where I pick the people that are most like the character anyway. Because when you come from low budget and music videos and low budget movies, you have to you have to get creative. And
exactly.
but working with him was really the most fun because he was so into wanting to do it, and he's kind of the kind of running joke through the movie. He's the butt of all the jokes, but he also represents a true film lover and how, especially with horror, people aren't judging the movies; they're just into horror, and that's the Grog. He's done two, like Jasper's, like, oh, he's done 200 movies. That's kind of the point, is that he's the one that loves the films the most within the film. He's the true
Yeah,
fan.
and I loved even just the homage to him as an actor and as a character. You had all the posters, obviously, of the films that were mentioned in there over the credits. I was
Right.
obsessed. I was hooked in. I rewatched the credits about 3 times to try and capture all the
That's
posters. It was
hilarious.
such
Yeah.
a wonderful moment.
Excellent. Well, I'm so glad you did that because that was kind of the point, and coming up with the titles of the films. And you know that he says the same thing all the time. Oh, this reminds me of a movie. That is a deliberate, that's not like, oh, couldn't you think of something else to say? No, that's
Mm,
the whole point, is that, it's the reverence for the
mm,
movie business and for films that he kind of captures for me. And so that was the most exciting, seeing him work against Lynn and Bill, because he was so thrilled to kind of be there and be doing it. It was, that's the magic of films in a way. It's just the joy that people get out of it. Do you know what I mean? When they're
mm.
there, and and if you're lucky, that reflects in the content. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like an energy that comes off the screen, I think, when you get people that are loving what they're doing.
definitely. And I think a lot of people would view this as a film with the draw of Lynn and Bill, but for me, it's the Grog's film.
Absolutely.
His DNA is all over this with the
Absolutely.
character, the music.
Mhm.
It just exudes him as a person, as a
And
character. It's
that's what
wonderful.
happened. And that's what happened because when he got involved in the film, we'd been trying to make the film for years. And when
Mm.
he got involved, that character was originally a female stunt woman. It was completely
Oh,
different. And then when he got involved, and then also with Lynn, Lynn was going to play Felix, and Felix was going to, it was all swap. When Lynn got involved,
oh,
she goes, I don't want to play the fucking psychic. She goes, I always play the psychic. She
yeah.
goes, I want to play the horrible boss. And it worked because that was when we flipped into comedy, because in a way, I think of something about Mary,
Mm.
Kingpin. I think of her comedies.
Yeah.
She's amazing in the horror movies. I mean, Insidious, no doubt. But when I think of her, I think of the comedy. So that was like, okay, we can inject some of that absurdity in her
Yeah.
outrageousness into the character to kind of
Yeah.
take it way over the top to where, the characters are looking at her like, which is what we do in the
Yeah.
film. And people come and say the craziest shit, and everyone's like, what the fuck? All the
It's the line where she's yelling at the then to be filmmaker, and she's like, "You're a PA. Do what PAs do. Get a coffee." And I was like, "Yes, standing ovation. Loved it.
exactly. Because it
Wonderful."
stands for pissant. And
Yes.
I'm telling you, we had to pull that back. I mean, because
Oh.
once she knew her character, she
Mhm.
wrote a lot of her own dialogue, and pretty much most of it based on the original dialogue. She put it in her own words, and she went there. I mean, man, there was so much stuff she said to Jasper that we just had to cut out, and
Oh.
also just her. just throughout the film, she went so nuclear with it, that
I'm
which
so
is
excited
great.
for those outtakes then. I need to
Yeah,
see
yeah.
those.
There's amazing. So tempering that, that's the
Mm,
thing, because sometimes you're like, wow, you just want to go mental and go full whole hog. But it
yeah,
was we had to exercise some restraint, even even within the comedy, because she's powerful, man. When she gets going, it's like
yeah.
there's no stopping Lynn on, on camera.
Oh, wonderful. And then just to swerve slightly off that discussion, do you have any because I've got a growing community in the horror network of fans and people who are aspiring filmmakers. Do you have any advice for them? Because I know you came from a director of music videos straight into features. And do you have any advice for anyone
Yeah,
aspiring to
yeah. I
bring
mean,
some up?
I started making films when I was 13 with a Super 8 camera, and
Mm,
went to fine art film school at St. Martin's, and got into videos really accidentally. I was kind of already making films. It was just I was so connected to music that it just made sense. And I was living in Soho. I mean, it was just everything was right there, and there were no directors for videos back then.
mm,
It was open. But my advice is take your phone, get your
mhm.
friends, and go out and make a film. Do it
Yeah,
over a weekend. Do it over 3 weekends. You don't need professional actors. You don't need a professional camera. You don't need
mm,
professional sound. Go out and do it on your phone and make the film and finish the film. And the next one will be better. And the
yeah,
next one after that will be better. And that is all it is. If you want to make a film, make a film. If you want to learn how to write, write. That's all
mm,
it takes. There's no magic to how to make films. You can learn the basics in a day.
yeah,
But that's just one part of it. The other part
mm,
of it is the writing. So if you want to be a filmmaker, you have to think about story and you have to think about writing, because films start on the page.
yeah.
You can go out and make an improvisational film and not
Mhm.
write it. I mean, there's no art for art's sake, right? I believe in that. But my advice is take your phone, get your friends, and just go do it. Don't worry about what it's going to be like. Is it going to be professional?
Mm,
Just go do it and have fun, and you'll be surprised at what you can do. I really believe that, because we live in a culture where everyone's on camera, right? Because of
yeah,
Instagram. And so people, it's not like before. People, oh, I'll get shy. Now everyone's on fucking camera. So I don't
exactly.
think it'd be hard to find a group of people willing to participate. But again, it comes from the captain. That one person, the writer, creator, has to be the driving force. Like it's that passion and
Mm,
drive and enthusiasm that's going to bring other people in. Over the
yeah,
idea and the great concept. It's going to be the energy that because
yeah.
it takes a village, right? That's a cliche for making films, but it's true.
And you
It-
also learn from those you bring onto set. The more people you work with, the more you learn and the more you develop as
Absolutely.
a
And I
filmmaker.
tell you, every morning before we do a shoot and we have our safety meeting, I say to the crew, I'm like, if anyone has an idea,
Mm.
if you're a PA, I don't care. If you have an idea for a shot, don't be afraid to share the idea.
Oh,
Because
amazing.
there's a hierarchy. People are like, oh, I'm not going to say it. I'm like, no, all brains together end
Yeah,
up making the suit better.
definitely. And so obviously you're well versed in the horror and filmmaking culture as it is and as an art form. Are there any films you would recommend for us to get to know you?
Oh my God. You mean there's so many amazing, great films out there, isn't there? The
Mhm.
next film I'm making is kind of based on a 1990 Belgian psychological horror called Man Bites Dog, which is a kind
Oh,
of
I know it.
which is a documentary, a fake documentary about a serial killer. I think, The Audition, there's so much amazing horror made in different countries, and it's all
Mm.
different. It's impossible to pick one.
Yeah.
You automatically go The Exorcist because it is the scariest thing ever created. But The Grudge was terrifying too. You know,
Yes.
and sometimes horror like The Shining. I mean, there's nothing really happens in that movie that's gory apart from a river of blood, and that is one of the scariest things ever. I like the psychological horror over
Mm.
gore, but I also love, you know, Peter Jackson's early movies where they're just complete gore. I love that.
Yeah.
But it's a
It's
thing
wild.
it's a thing into its own. I think if you go down that path, you got to really embrace it, especially now because the level of gore is so it's just gotten so nuts. I'm like,
I agree.
you know,
I agree, and I think sometimes actually now where the limits have been pushed so far because even everyday exposure in the news is horrifying enough, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
to strip it back and to have no gore in a horror is often more effective at the moment.
yeah.
So
Like
it's
Robert
yeah.
Eggers and stuff, he's dealing with all psychological and like I have a Scottish film that we're scary film. It's about a witch. It's about sleep paralysis, and but it's also about mythology and history. Because Scotland's national animal is a unicorn, right? I mean, I tell that to people all the time. I think they understand Scotland, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. Our national animal is a mythological creature that
Yeah.
doesn't exist, and myth and is all woven into our history, which is why I think I'm so fascinated by the supernatural. Is because we grew up with it in Scotland. I mean,
Mm.
I did. We were had a Ouija board when we were little kids, doing it in the
Oh,
close outside our house in Glasgow. So it's been in my brain for ever since my whole life.
wow.
Hmm.
And then, so I have one question that I like to ask every interviewee, and that is, if you were to screen Scared to Death
Hmm.
with another feature, either thematically or something you personally love, what would you choose?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
God. I think it would be like Young Frankenstein. I think it would
That's,
be something like that, like modern and old satire. In Young Frankenstein, we had the pleasure of working with Jim Plannett, and Jim Plannett was the gaffer on Young Frankenstein, did all the lighting. He worked on Scared to Death, and his father did It's a Wonderful Life. So think about that. He was 80 when he did our film, and he had been in film his entire life and brought all of that knowledge to the set. It was like working with like Yoda.
yeah,
What I
right.
got,
The
it was
things
just,
you must have
it,
written.
yeah. And you get all this experience from all these people that come together. It just makes it makes my job easier, but it also just makes it fun because you just get to tap the experience. You know what I mean? It's one that's one business you can really do that in, is you can bring in, even if you're a novice, like a first time director, you can bring in an incredible crew and they'll do it for you if you have your story and you know how to you get what you want from your actors. It's like Tarantino said, that you don't need to know how to do it, because that's why you have
Yeah,
a crew, you
yeah,
know?
exactly that. Yeah, you bring in the knowledge to your base and you flesh
Absolutely.
out your idea.
Yep.
Wonderful. And obviously, the UK audiences haven't yet seen Scared to Death. It's got the VOD release a couple of days ago, which is exciting. Is there anything you would like to tell us about the film for someone who's fresh coming into it?
I think the British audience hopefully is going to enjoy it. There's a lot of that British humor. I think it's getting released. Jenga is putting it out over there. They're making all the deals, so I'm not sure exactly when. I think it's probably closer to August, September. Um, so yeah, no, I'm just excited for people to go see it. I mean, hopefully people will go to the theater. If not, they can catch it on VOD. And I just want to hear the opinions from across the water.
Yeah.
Because it's a little different. The film's a little goofy, it's a little
Mhm.
silly. So that was my concern, is like, are people really going to get it? They're going to understand the kind of nature of the humor, and so we'll see. The proof is in the pudding, right?
I think if there's an audience and a crowd for this film, it's a British crowd. You're writing for the
I,
right people over
I
here.
think
This is,
so. I've been
and I
saying,
also think I was going to say as well. I was just going to say the Lynn Shaye when she's snapping on set. I need to see that with a crowd in a cinema. That I
yeah,
need to see the reaction would be wild.
yeah. We played it at Glasgow Film Festival
Mhm.
last March, and it was 500 people in the theater, and I swear to God, I was so nervous. My whole family were there. I
Yeah.
was honestly never had insomnia like that before. I didn't sleep. We got to the screening. They laughed all the way through the movie.
Oh, it's
Like, even the
amazing.
most subtle thing, they got everything. I was just sitting there next to my producer, like, holy shit, like they really got it. So if that happens across the UK, I'll be very happy.
I was going to say because I'm fortunate to see quite a lot of screeners, and you can tell a British filmmaker when they go into horror comedy against an American. It's a very different style, as you say. The little nuanced moments are there. We pick up on it. We grew up on Carry On,
Yeah, true.
films. We
It's
grew
true.
up on Only Fools. We know
It's
even
so
dark
true.
humor.
And it's camp. My film's
Yeah,
camp because I love John Waters. Like, what I mean, that's my what I love. And I want to be diverse. I want to represent everybody. There's humor in all of it. Just the human condition and how fucking nuts we are as characters. That's why, I mean, to me, that's the most interesting thing from an anthropological level, is just the types of, it's like we're like different we're one species, but we're like all different species. We're so diverse. I want to
yeah,
somehow capture that in my films. Do you know what I mean? That human
definitely.
condition and our differences.
Yeah, you did so well, and even just to say to nod to Bill, of course, because he's a genre favorite, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention him. How was it like? How was it working with Bill? And that character for him is so stripped back as a performer compared to when you hear him in a genre, you're like, let's go, it's Otis, it's any
Yeah,
one of his Chop Top. What
yeah,
was that
he
like?
it was great because he was off type. Do you know what I mean? When I originally, because we knew we were going to have him play Amos, he does that at the end of the film,
Yeah,
but I just know Bill is so experienced that I was like, just to do something different with him. You know, I mean,
yeah,
something less obvious. They put him in a suit and make him look like Jordan Peterson. I was like, let's do that. Let's just
perfect.
flip him upside down. And he brought the scorpion necktie. Working with Bill was great. I mean, he was, you know, amazing to work with the other actors because he's such a generous actor.
Mhm.
And what the way that I work is I'll write a script, but then when we get on set, I'll have everyone rehearse and improvise it and put it into their own language. So with Bill, there was a lot of that, of reworking the text, putting it, because he was off type and we had to kind of find a place where he would sit. And he was great. It was like having, the mentor on set. He was so great with all the younger actors. But again, that was another concern of mine. Is like, okay, I'm taking him off type, but who cares? That's the fun of it, right? Is presenting something different. Yeah, and
Yeah,
because he can do so many different things other than be terrifying scary. You know,
exactly.
when he's counting the money at the beginning of the film as he's walking up the steps, you're like, this person's fucked up. Like,
Yeah,
but you don't know. You can't anticipate what's going to happen because of the way that it's framed. You just
yeah.
know. It's like the bomb under the table, Hitchcock. That's how you create suspense, right? The bomb's under
Mhm.
the table is ticking. And you're like,
Yeah.
what the fuck's going to happen? That's what, right at the beginning of the movie, that it's like The Shining. Oh, the last guy that came here chopped up his
Yeah.
kid. And he's, oh, I'm not going to happen to me. We use the same device in this of just setting the trigger at the beginning and then you're just waiting for it to kind of unravel.
Waiting for the ball to drop.
Yeah, suspense
Well, thank
versus
you.
mystery. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it was created so wonderfully, and I have to thank you personally. Now I've got
Oh,
the
I
time for a second just to say
really
it was a
appreciate it.
wonderful feature and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
No, it
Thank you
means a
so much.
lot to me. Thank you so much. And thanks for taking the time to do the interview and
No problem.
plugging the team. I appreciate it.